Must have been quite a busy day for you.
Hey, pleasure. Nice to see you again, David. Yes, it is a busy day. And in fact, it's been a busy few weeks as usual, but it's also been a really exciting day. As I think you'll know, we've managed to deliver $74 billion of GMV over the last 11 days of Double 11. We've worked with 250,000 brands internationally and in China. And I think we've really shown a new way of doing Double 11 this year. So it's really exciting.
Well, this year was different to all other years. Perhaps you can just talk a little bit about the difference in the structure and your thinking from an Alibaba perspective of what got you to doing something very differently this year than you've done in the past.
Sure. So as you know, Double 11 is 12 years old now. So it started on a relatively small scale in China in 2009. And at that time was with a few brands. It was mostly on Tmall, our platform for brands, which is like an online shopping mall. And it really continued like that, but with extreme growth for its first several years. What's happened in the last few years as the shopping festivals become more international, we've had businesses of really varying sizes from some of the biggest businesses in the world down to SMEs from all over the world. And as we've taken the shopping festival from just in China out to Southeast Asia, to Europe, to the US and the rest of the world, is we've just had to think a little bit about how we adapt the festival. So the big change this year was that we went from really focusing a lot of energy and effort into one day, one 24-hour period. And it was a 24-hour period last year where we delivered $38 billion of GMV into an 11-day festival. So, really always thinking about that number 11, but going from the 1st of November through till midnight on the 11th of November. And we did that for a few reasons. The first, as I mentioned, is as it becomes international. The second was that we are now at the point of delivering a really extraordinary number of orders that Tianyao and our delivery partners, have to get to people over a period of time. So what started as a small festival became a really big festival. And a few years ago, I remember speaking to you and we were kind of blown away because there were 812 million delivery orders. Well, this year that number's 2.3 billion delivery orders. And actually that puts a lot of...
You just say that again, just,
with a really big B.
That's a big number.
It's really mind-boggling, isn't it? When you think about it, and we get very used to dealing in these big numbers, but over the 11 days, it's 2.3 billion orders. And to deliver that, of course, takes a lot of hard work, a lot of effort from Tianyao and our delivery partners and from the brands who we work with. So it's really important that we get that right. So spreading out gives us a little bit of buffer there, I think, to give people the best experience. The other really significant reason, I think, is that this year we've really thought a lot about SMEs. So of course, we have a lot of very large brands taking part. At my last check, and we're talking really only just after the end of Double 11, but at my last check, there were about 13 brands who had done over $1 billion RMB in GMV. So it's a lot of letters, but a billion yuan in gross merchandise value. There were over 400 brands who'd done over 100 million RMB in terms. We're about 9-1, so that's about 11 million pounds for over 400 brands. So some really large brands doing really large volumes of sales. But we actually had 250,000 businesses participating. We had 2,600 new brands from around the world launching their products and launching their brands on our cross-border platform, Tmall Global, for the first time. And so when you're launching so many new brands and new products, when you're introducing 2 million new products to consumers, so many SMEs, we really wanted to give the entire festival time to breathe so that consumers can really understand what these brands are about. The brands can understand how to really make the most, of the first wave of the promotion, and then the second really big day today. And I think spreading that over 11 days seems to have really worked. We've seen a huge diversity of brands from the biggest companies in the world to luxury players to SMEs. And I think it's just something that we might see more of in future.
Now, I think to me, one of the extraordinary things, and you sort of briefly just touched on it, is now the breadth of both products and brands that are actively involved in what we probably now call the 11/11 festival period. Talk a little bit about, I suppose, what we've seen, luxury players really participating this year, and to those small SME companies as well. How is all that kept into some equilibrium that is manageable both for the brands and for the consumer?
Well, so in terms of equilibrium and management, this is where very quickly the Alibaba ecosystem comes into play. So, we at our peak, we're handling around 580,000 orders a second. So I'll repeat that again, 580,000 orders a second at our peak. That requires a lot from the e-commerce platform. It also requires a lot from Alipay, processing those payments. It requires a lot from cloud, which all of our services operate on Alibaba Cloud. So that's, I think, how we manage. In terms of how we then work with the brands, there are really large teams in Hangzhou, our headquarters, working with some of the biggest brands and really trying to help them make the most of this. So, on the luxury side, for example, we've worked with luxury brands for many years now, helping them deliver new and bespoke experiences just for Double 11. And this year, you have brands like Longchamp producing specific bags for Double 11, so people can feel like, well, this is something I can only get on that shopping festival. So it's not really about a discount. It's not necessarily about a promotion so much as it is about exclusivity. But of course, we also have is SMEs. And the way we can support those businesses is firstly, of course, through the robustness of the platform and the ecosystem, but also because there are so many more tools now that people can use to connect with consumers. And so you and I have spoken in the past about a really tremendous SME, which is more M than S these days in terms of how they've grown over the last few years, called Smoothskin. A beauty tech business based in Wales, who have really grown their business with us, really grown their business in China. And every year and every month when I speak to them, their sales volumes always surprise me, whether it's Double 11 or not. But this year, they did a live stream with Austin Lee last week to really promote their Double 11 activity.
So for those who don't know, Austin Lee, he's the king, the king of London.
He's doing pretty well. He's a very very influential guy.
He gets a few odd million people listening to his streams.
Right. So he's it's great for them to be able to partner with him, right? And he's a really famous guy. They've done well with Veya in the past as well, who's also incredibly well known and well loved in China. But again, this blew my mind. I was speaking to the business last week. Their live stream got 103 million views. And you look at it, and it's a business that many people in the UK may not have even heard of. And yet pretty much double the population of England in China watched a live stream of their products to buy.
Does this suggest, David, that there's tremendous opportunity for SMEs in Europe and in the States to tap into the opportunities in China without having all that expense and difficulties of establishing massive great big businesses in China in order to do it?
No, I think that's exactly right. I think the opportunity for SMEs is now, and I think the opportunity in China is better than it's ever been for a few reasons. First of all, the Chinese economy, and that's what these last 11 days demonstrate. The Chinese economy has bounced back. During the late summer, it got back to pre-COVID levels, and now it's actually growing really healthily again. And you see that again if you come back to people just on Alibaba platforms transacting $74 billion over the period. That is a hungry and confident group of consumers, around 800 million people buying on the platforms. So for SMEs, what I would really want them to think about is when you're thinking about growth, when you're thinking about a recovery from what's been a pretty tough 2020 for most people, I would really look to the Chinese market and say, well, how can I go there? How do I get there? The second thing I really think about is that very naturally there can be a perception that China must be difficult. It's far away, different language, different culture. Many people haven't traveled there, and nothing of that scale is necessarily easy. But I definitely think it's easier than people think. And those 250,000 businesses, there's tens of thousands of overseas businesses, making a dent this year. They show that. They show that if you have the energy, if you have the creativity, if you have the desire, if you've done your homework, then you can really make it work. And so, when I think about it, I really want to say to SMEs, don't think it's too hard. It's definitely easier than it used to be, and it's definitely worthwhile.
Now, maybe when we look back at this period, in a few months' time, when the dust settles, not that dust settles very much and very fast at Alibaba, maybe this will be the year of the live stream. In a sense, live stream going very much mainstream. What's your view on the impact of live stream? What should companies start thinking about in order to take advantage of what seems to be a really impressive, both in sales and brand building terms, of people doing live streamings?
So there's a few things. I think first of all, don't dismiss it as gimmicky, which I think people would have done a few years ago. It's gone from being really interesting to being essential in China. Just live streaming on Taobao this year is a $50 billion business, right? It's not chicken feed, right? It's a seriously big phenomenon in China, and it's growing very, very quickly. Second, you have to think more and more, and this is not just about live streaming, but in a year where we've all spent more time at home, more time online, you have to think beyond efficiency for digital, which is the way a lot of people think about it. And you have to think about entertainment, and you have to think about engagement, and live streaming brings that. It brings people a sense of entertainment while they're shopping. They can get more information about the brand. So I think those two things are really important to think about. And then in terms of tips, we're seeing more people using their own employees and executives as talent. So, we have these big live streaming heroes, these KOLs, as we call them, key opinion leaders, like Austin, like Vea. But actually, we're seeing that if you can get a brand's executive, you can get a founder or somebody who designed the product in front of the camera, then people love that because it brings authenticity. They know their products better than anyone else, and they can really talk to the benefits. And of course, if you're in China and you see somebody from the UK talking about a British product, that just, again, brings that authenticity, brings that credibility. And then beyond that,
I was amazed at how many senior executives and CEOs this year, I think 300-400, all participated in their individual live streams of one form or another.
Well, they know their products better than anyone else, and a lot of senior executives as well are really good at talking. So if you can talk in front of a camera, I think it gives you a great benefit to sell the product.
Well, maybe brand managers will be sales managers soon.
It could be, but I would really think about it. And for China, it's essential now. And I would think, and what I would say to any brand is, think about what you can learn there that you can bring back to Europe, back to the US, because I think we are going to see more and more demand from consumers here for that kind of engagement. And we've seen it, by the way, with AliExpress during this festival, where we've been using AI to, in real time, translate live streams in Chinese into Spanish, French, Italian, Russian, all markets where AliExpress is very, very popular. Well,
David, you're the general manager for the UK and for the Nordics. Is the 11/11 shopping festival also good for the UK and the Nordic economy, as well as clearly being very good for the Chinese economy?
So the answer, for sure, yes. And I guess part of the question you're asking me is 11/11 here? And so I'll answer it two ways if I can. Definitely good for the economy because of the exports, right? The UK, just very quickly, is always on 11/11, pretty high up the top 10 of countries exporting to China. I saw the China CIIE Expo last week. I think there were about 450 million pounds worth of deals struck for British businesses exporting to China. And on a day like today, that these are the days and these are the periods where British businesses can really succeed, and also Nordic businesses and Dutch businesses. In terms of local, what we are seeing is that the festival is going global. So it's been incredibly popular in Southern Europe, where AliExpress is very popular. And I think it's going to be increasingly popular in Northern Europe, which I look after. And I think we will see that more and more. So yes, I think in both directions, it's really very, very good for the economy. And I would definitely say it can be a big part of a recovery plan for any business who's had a difficult 2020.
Well, finally, David, I know you've got a very busy evening ahead of you. 11/11 just finished in China, but lots going on around Europe. But maybe you could just let us know what you think your single biggest highlight from the 2020 11/11 Global Shopping Festival was.
So I think many things I've mentioned already, right? And we don't really worry too much. We don't think so much about the GMV. We think about the number of brands and the number of consumers we work with. But the single highlight I would say is the real innovation. So this is a cheat answer because there's lots of innovation I can include, but the way we've really, again, raised the stakes in terms of innovation. So I talked about live streaming, the use of AI. So we're doing live streaming with avatars. We're doing auto translation, but one really great example that I really loved. So earlier this year, we were working with IKEA in China to bring their kind of very famous store layouts into their Tmall environment, so that you don't have to go to their Beijing store, you don't have to go to their Shanghai store to kind of get lost in an IKEA and see all those products. You can do it from your phone and walk around the store just as you would, and if you were there in person. And the IKEA Tmall store, with its kind of 360 digital view of an IKEA store, was walked around by Chinese consumers 60 million times during the festival.
Wow.
And that to me was really exciting, because that really speaks to how digital and physical, they can really work together and bring new and exciting shopping experiences.
Well, I think that's a good point to end in a sense, the seamless nature of now how retail is both physical and digital all at the same time. And if you can integrate that, you have the best of both worlds. But for the moment, David, Lloyd from Alibaba, congratulations on an amazing shopping festival. And thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.